on with, I don't know. You can send me an email, say I'm here. Our amazing website coordinator is saying make sure you scan it through your phone app as opposed to Cvent. If you are participating in this event game, here is that code. There's both the QR code and then the number is lowercase p, uppercase K, 2, lowercase z, BIC, 3. Here is the agenda. If the QR code does not work for you, it is in the app. Ashley, remind me of where to find it in the app. Under the More tab, all things GLR business. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Mary Strick, is there a second? Stephanie H. Moore, second. All in favor, please raise your hands. Go ahead and lower your hands. Any opposed? All right, thank you. First up, if you'll go ahead and click on the link to the minutes in the agenda, because we want to keep our captioning going with our slides. I do ask that you look at them on your devices. These can also be accessed later if you want to look at them more in depth. But the first up is the minutes from our meeting, which was held virtually in October. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Todd Schwartzberg moves to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Jeff Wolf seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. All right, go ahead and lower them. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. All right, first up is my report today. We're going to start off with the state of the GLR. First, I want to thank many, many people who help us in our journey. We are all volunteers in these roles. So thank you to our executive committee members. Thank you to our AMTA committee representatives. And thank you to our Assembly of Delegates. And I do want to point out, if someone is interested in joining the Assembly of Delegates, we still do have one opening for a delegate, and we are open to many alternates. Unfortunately, so far, just because of life. In our assembly meetings thus far, we have not been able to seat all of our current delegates. So we are shorthanded. We would love to have you come join us. Since we met, these are the activities I've been engaged in a routine basis. In particular, this past year has had a lot of orientation involved. We have a lot of new people on the executive committee. We've been looking at a lot of processes and made some changes, made some transitions, made some upgrades. We did also transition to a new bank shortly after a conference last year, and that's had some ups and downs, some growing pains, but we're getting settled in, and our accounting firm, Sidekick, has been extremely helpful as we've put in place some new transaction processes. Also, another thing that I want to highlight is that put together the annual report, which we'll be looking at shortly. There we go. First up, I want to emphasize ways to connect with the GLR with our various events that we do. At the end, we ask, how did you hear about this event? What was communication like? And we've received some feedback that people didn't know where to find the information, or they found it at the last minute. So I do want to highlight that we have news and notes, which goes out monthly, and it contains an event calendar at the top, as well as other relevant information. If you are not receiving news and notes, please sign up to receive it. If you think you've signed up, but you haven't seen it, it comes from MailChimp and often ends up in promotions tabs. So check those promotion tabs, give it permission. We do have about a 40% open rate, which is actually pretty high for electronic newsletters. So of course, we have our social media pages, mostly active Facebook and Instagram. We have a link tree, which does need to be updated a little bit, but it can also direct you to these various other aspects. And then our website does have a calendar of events at the top. And this is up to date. It'll give you the information you need to know for what's going on in the GLR. We will be updating the website more in the coming months. We discussed it in depth yesterday at our executive committee meeting. So there will be some changes coming to the website, but the calendar events will be consistent. All right, looking at that annual report, just some things that I want to point out. With looking at the past year, a notable trend, we've talked about this a little bit before, but we do have a declining membership. So to be a member, considered a member of the GLR, you become a member of AMTA and designated as a GLR person. Looking at 2021, we were at 491 members. At the end of 2025, we were at 369. I have not yet looked at the numbers for this first couple months of 2026. I did get a list Wednesday, but I don't know what our current membership numbers are, but something to keep in mind. With that membership, we get a portion of what you pay to AMTA, which is part of our revenue. We have also seen a decreasing revenue, and this is partly because of membership dues and partly because of increasing expenses as well. Alicia's going to be talking a bit more about that in her report, but those are some highlights from the annual report. Also, we do have open service positions. One of the things that we've been looking at to kind of combat this declining revenue and increasing expenses is implementing a fundraising committee. That will be addressed again in the later reports you'll see shortly. But we do have a Panda Express fundraiser set up for April 10th. This is good in any Panda Express. Just pay either online or through the app and use the code, and we will get a percentage of those sales. Like I mentioned, we do have some open positions. So we have an open call for service. We would love to tell you more, or if it's something that you're interested in, absolutely reach out to me. You can complete the call for service. I would be happy to answer any questions. Another thing that we have launched in the past 6 months is Leadership Academy. This is something that we had started talking about through strategic planning a couple years ago. So this past November, myself, past President Todd Schwartzberg, and President-elect Kirby Gilliam, we did part 1 of the Leadership Academy. And this was recorded, and the recording is available. If it's something that you're interested in, reach out to me, and I can get that information for you. We've been looking at part 2, and hopefully get that information out soon. If you have any questions, comments, ideas, or concerns, please contact me. This is my email address, and I would be happy to answer any other questions and direct you to where you can find that information. Alicia, come on up.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alicia Basner-Ruby. I assumed the role of Treasurer of GLR AMTA last year, and I'm here to talk about everybody's favorite topic, money. I know, bright and early in the morning, it's going to be great. All right, we are in a financial time of transition here in the GLR. Like Kelly mentioned, last year at about this time, we switched from Fifth Third Bank to Chase Bank, and that has come with a lot of benefits. It's also come with some challenges. One of the challenges is that transition happened in the midst of our fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs from January 1 of the calendar year to December 31st. And so that transition happened in March. And so in the midst of a fiscal year. And our finances had run with where different aspects of the organization had different accounts. So the conference had an account, the students had an account, the organization had an account, and with the new bank, that changed. And so how not only did the bank change, but how we tracked our finances had to change. And also we got a new treasurer. So fun times. So there were some growing pains in how we navigated that. We have been moving towards utilizing the resources that we have, which are the software system QuickBooks that we pay for, and also our accounting firm Sidekick, and really leaning in on those resources. And in the future, what that will mean is that our operational budget is going to be more intentionally connected to all aspects of the organization. So when you looked at that annual report, if you did, you will have seen that all of those different accounts collapsed into one. That is what you will see moving forward. So that's what that meant. There are lots of financial strengths happening. If we look at last year, fiscal year 2025, program revenue was the highest it has been in the past 3 fiscal years at $128,492.94, which is really, really great. And a large part of that is due to our conference planners, our conference co-chairs, our conference, all of the people involved in conference. And so, not only this year, but years past, I cannot thank them enough for all of the work that they put in. So if you see any of them, please, 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 please thank them. So well deserved. Our expenses were also kept on budget last year. Heading into quarter 4, I was projecting about a $3,000 surplus of ending the year. And then we had one unavoidable expense outlier that put us into a deficit. And it really was unavoidable. It's nobody's fault. We had to pay the down payment deposit for the hotel in Minnesota, in St. Paul. And that deposit was $10,000. And we had not budgeted for that. And so that put us at a deficit of $6,894.42. So man, that projection was right on target. And we ended in a deficit. So you can see here in this chart where our revenue and expenses landed for the year. So again, positives, and kind of holding multiple truths at the same time. If we look at this year, we are projecting a budget surplus of $641.33. And boy, am I proud of that number. We are also looking at program revenue from conference that is projected to exceed budget. And so again, I know, amazing with all of our conference planners. I do want to point out that if anybody, wants to see the finances, I am happy to show anybody the reports and happy to talk about finances. I will point out that the majority of our revenue and our deposits come in quarter one when conference is running. So this January through March period. And then all of our expenses go out in quarters 2 through 4. So we'll see our assets decrease as the fiscal year goes on. We also have some challenges in our finances, and that I think it is important for our membership to know. Our expenses are increasing, and they are increasing for everybody. They're increasing by a lot. Between fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25, our expenses saw a 29.77% increase. It's due to a lot of different things. A lot of that is due to the price of conferences increasing. The cost of the hotel increases. The cost of food increases. And you've seen that reflected. We also have limited revenue streams within this organization. So the money that we bring in is limited to a few different pools or revenue levers, okay? Kelly talked about we have a portion of the membership dues that you pay to AMTA we receive back, okay? So we have that as a form of revenue, as a lever that we can pull. Conference is our biggest. It's our biggest form of revenue. It's our biggest pool, our biggest lever that we can pull. And then we have this contributed income lever, this pool, and that equates to donations, corporate support, foundation support. And that's where this fundraising committee idea is born of. How can we tap into that? Because right now, that pool is not being accessed very much at all. And so we have, I think, thinking creatively about what that looks like, how we can access foundation support, corporate support, is something that we're thinking a lot about. And so that's where the idea of the fundraising committee came from. In thinking about the membership dues, from fiscal year 2024 to fiscal year 2025, there's been a 15% decrease. It's been decreasing from year to year. Kelly talked about that in her report as well. It's a 50% decrease in the revenue that we've received. So that makes a difference in the revenue that we're getting and the money that we're able to pull from. The reality of this situation is that without adjustments and the ability to increase our revenue and to decrease our expenses, we will run the risk of budget deficits. And that can and will do harm to the organization. That is the reality of the situation. When we looked at our original fiscal 2026 budget, when we did that budget originally, the projected deficit was $35,000. We got it to a surplus of $641.33. Thank you. We did that a couple of different ways, right? There had to be an immediate response, right? A $35,000 deficit was not going to work. So we eliminated that deficit from a couple of different ways. We increased revenue by increasing the cost of conference registration, because that was the lever that we could pull fastest. From those revenue streams that I talked about, that's the one that we had access to the fastest. So we raised the cost of registration slightly so that we could raise that revenue. We also eliminated extraneous expenses. We did a full review of the organization and eliminated any extraneous expense that we possibly could. An example of this is we used to have a professional Zoom account. We have reduced that to a personal Zoom account that's saving us $1,000 a year. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's $1,000. We also had to make some tough calls. And one of those tough calls was that we eliminated award scholarships as budgeted expenses this year. That doesn't mean that that decision can't be reevaluated as finances change throughout the course of the fiscal year. But as we were looking at that $35,000 deficit and our expenses and how we could reduce expenses, that was the decision that we made. And we felt that we need to be transparent with you about those decisions that we made. What's the plan moving forward? Ongoing, we have to think about increasing the revenue. So those pools of money, we have to think about the consistent evaluation of the cost of conference registration, the cost of CMTEs, the cost of the institute, the cost of registration, and what that looks like, especially as compared to how much it is costing us. As how much it costs to run the conference increases, we have to think really critically about how much we're charging and how much it costs to run conference. We also have to think creatively, right? We have to think about how we can also raise money in different ways and how we can access some different funding streams that we may have not accessed before. And foundation support, corporate support we are honing in on that. We are targeting that very intentionally. Clearly, you're about to hear a bylaw change about it. And then there's the decreased expense as well. So there's a consistent evaluation of our operational expenses, again, including conference and related expenses. Y'all, conference is like the big part of our budget. It's like big, like huge, okay? So that is the big thing that we are consistently evaluating on a fiscal year. There is also a call to action because individuals can make a big difference. Everybody in this room can make a big difference. There is an opportunity, if it feels right for you, to donate to GLR AMTA. On our website, there is an opportunity to donate. It's on the top right-hand corner, if that feels right to you. Kelly tells me that it always lives there. So if that feels right to you, that is always available. Joining AMTA helps us. You know, you heard it from Kelly, you've heard it from me. We do get a portion of those membership dues, and that helps with the revenue that we are able to bring in. If you are interested in looking at the finances, if you're interested in creative funding opportunities, if you're interested in corporate foundation support, the fundraising committee might be the place for you, and we would love to have you. So if that feels right for you, please consider joining. If none of those options feel right for you right now, that's okay. We would really appreciate you sharing the mission of GLR AMTA in your network and expanding the reach of this organization. The more people that we can reach, the more likely it is that someone may find one of these options right for them. And that is where we can maybe access a little bit more support. There is a couple of minutes, so I do want to just pause for a couple of minutes if there's any questions about the finances before we move on. I'm happy to answer them. Go ahead. There's a microphone up here for the Zoom screen, or the live stream. Good morning. They're coming.
Deb to the rescue. Check, check. Good morning. Oh, Good morning.
We got
Thank
it.
you for such a great report. Do we still have investments?
We do. We do, and they are about at $31,000.
Okay.
So that is part of our total assets at about $31,000.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sorry that you had to share such uplifting news with all of us this morning, but good job. This might be a little bit of like, it doesn't really matter, but I'm curious. I'm wondering how, in terms of membership numbers and how that's impacting the finances, how much of that is because we are losing members and how much of that has to do with the sliding scale that AMTA has implemented for dues?
That is a good question.
Thanks.
That question was raised yesterday, and Kelly's going to come up and talk more about that.
Okay.
And I'm going to let her answer.
So that is something that, like I said, we talked about it yesterday. And the information that we get, that we have gotten so far, hasn't necessarily been clear. It's been hard to figure that out as far as our numbers and how it all rates. Maybe we just need to look into it a little bit more, because like she said, it didn't really come up until our discussion yesterday, and we haven't had time to dive deeper at yet in the past, 12 hours. So that is something that we can look at in more depth, and the problem still exists that the membership numbers have decreased. So we talked about, what was it, 8,000?
Yeah, at the highest, I have in the budget that at its highest, the revenue we were receiving from AMTA, I have in my historical information, the highest that the revenue was that we were receiving from AMTA was 8,000, and it's sitting at around 4,000 now. Okay, yeah, we'll do one more, and then we'll head over. I'll pass it over to Kirby.
I don't know what's gotten in our row. We're all asking questions. I love it. You talked about award scholarships having to be eliminated. Can you give us more information about that? Because I see that as a big benefit
Yes.
for members. And so
Yes.
can you clarify like what's been kind of eliminated for now and like plans for hopefully pulling those back in?
We eliminated all of the planned budget expenses for award scholarships. So I would have to have my budget spreadsheet to give you the exact line item, which I can do and provide that to you. I believe that the total amount that was budgeted was about $13,000. The plan for that is that if we are seeing increased revenue, because you are right in your assessment of that as a benefit, if we are seeing the revenue increase and we're having that surplus, that is one of the first things that we will be reevaluating.
I brought Todd up here because he oversees community supports as past president. One thing that I do want to, I guess, put out there, one thing as we were looking at the data, particularly for community supports, and Todd can speak more to this, a lot of the people who were requesting scholarships were not members, because that is something that we ask. So it was one of those things that when I say we talked about this a lot, it was like 2-3 meetings of really hard discussions. And it was not made in any flippant decision. It was a very hard decision. So Todd, do you want to speak a little bit more about community supports and what that looks like?
Hi, y'all. Good morning. I can speak for my two colleagues here and others on the board too. This was one of the hardest decisions I think we've ever made in our roles of governance. There is nothing more that we want to be able to do than to give money. Give money to our members, give money to our students. We want to help them with their board certification exams. That's one of our supports. We want to help with all sorts of development opportunities and resource opportunities. But with the rising costs of conference and with the reduced revenue that was coming in, we had this was really the only place that we really could cut. But it's not a cut. What it is an opportunity for all of us together to get creative on tapping our communities across our 6 states and find new relationships, cultivate new partners and sponsors. We have a great sponsorship program for conference, but something that the region has never had the opportunity to do is to cultivate sponsorships and relationships with funders for around the year giving. And because we have no other revenue stream other than conference, we needed to take a pause for the moment on these extremely important community support programs so that we could have time to be able to cultivate those new relationships. We are absolutely committed to it. We truly are. I am absolutely committed to it. You're going to hear in a little bit from our president-elect about a new committee that we all are committed to being very productive with, and that is a fundraising committee, something the region has never done. We have a finance committee, which is outstanding, and your leadership has been tremendous. We need dedicated people that can be hyper-focused on bringing in alternative revenue streams to our region so we can continue to do the things that we are committed to giving back to our region. We've grown too big, and that's a good problem to have. And it absolutely pains us to have to give this information to you that we cut a major part of our giving back to you. But it's just a moment of time of give us time to bring in new revenue and help us bring in new revenue. So,
One more thing.
Yeah, please.
I just have one more thing for transparency and perspective's sake. I ran the numbers when we were looking to make this decision, and if we were to have kept our operations the same, so kept scholarship at the same levels, operations staying exactly the same with the same level, conference prices would have had to raise $50 for each person across the board for this year. And we felt the decision was made, we had that conversation, that was not sustainable with that quick to say to the membership, we need you to pay $50 more. And so we elected to meet somewhere in the middle where we raised conference a little bit and made this other decision as well. And that was the decision that we made.
I do want to add that we've already been talking about this, but when everything is settled with conference and we see where we stand, we will reevaluate and see what the rest of our budget looks like for the rest of the year. Right now, it's looking really good with conference, really good. And we'll hear more about that tomorrow in tomorrow's business meeting. And we have to make sure we settle all those accounts before we say we can do this. So. And as soon as we can give back, we will. Thanks, Todd. Erin, did you have one more quick one before we move on?
Yes, sorry, I was down at the registration table. I apologize if I missed this. Did you already cover how much of the expenses of conference were covered by our dues versus the total cost of the conference, and then how much are funding?
By dues, do you mean registration?
Sponsors?
Registration rates?
Sure, yes, I'm sorry. Like the conference registration rates, how much of that covered the total conference expense plus this? What was the percentage of the sponsors?
So that will be covered tomorrow in the VP's report.
Okay.
Because they have all those numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a great question. So yeah, VPs have all that information. All right. Kirby, tell us more about the fundraising committee and more.
Thank you, everybody.
Just going to move that down real quick. Hi, I'm Kirby Gilliam. I'm your president-elect for the GLR. I'm so excited to be here. This is a neat room to be in with so many people that are here to support our region. So thank you for being here and investing your time to learn what's happening at the GLR level. I have to click my computer and this. So if I start talking about something you don't see, tell me to click, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about what I've been working on as president-elect. We had our 2025 special projects. I wanted to just share who got those. Lauren Nielsen got an award for starting a parent and guardian support group that is a collaborative support group, music therapy, and other service providers to bring families in together to learn how music therapy can help with OT or PT or how to navigate some of those systems that families don't know how to navigate. So that was one of the special projects that went from the GLR this year. We had Carolyn Beck receive a special project for an internship startup kit. They are starting a new internship program and they needed instruments, and so that was one of the things that we supported. And the last one was for, I apologize if you're here and I messed your name up, it's for Joy Willenbrink Conte, and she wrote the Harm Prevention, Mitigation, Interruption, and Response in Music Therapy, a group facilitator workbook. So that was to put together to get some help to finish that book up, to provide that. So I highly recommend that if you can, get your hands on a copy of this manuscript because it's very, very interesting. And this ties into what Todd, Kelly, and Alicia were saying with our community supports, our special projects for the spring. We're just going to say that those are on a hold. We're not doing them right now because of the financial discrepancies and the deficits. But I love what Todd said of this is just not right now. We're going to revisit this. We're going to see where things are. And if and when we can, we're going to pull it back. And I'm going to be really hopeful, and I'm going to say, when we can, we will pull this back. This is not we're just going to leave this out there. But you won't see that information coming through because we're not going to be doing the spring special projects. And then I want to make sure that we all know to come to the awards luncheon tomorrow. We've got 3 awards that we are giving out. We have the Music Therapy Advancement Award, the Rising Star Award, that's for somebody in their first 5 years of their cycle for their music therapy certification, and then our Service Award. So it'll be a really, really special luncheon, so please make sure that you prioritize that and come out and celebrate the people in your region receiving awards for outstanding service. Okay, are you ready? This is the best part of this morning. We're going to talk bylaws. No? Okay. Yeah, thank you. This has been a labor of love for me. So the first one we're going to talk about is this addition of the fundraising committee. We've been talking about it all morning. Todd came up with this brilliant idea of we have this deficit and we need to address this deficit. How are we going to do this? Because it can't be the entire exec team. That's too many people, too many hands in the pot to do this. It can't be one person. That's not enough help. So what are we going to do? We're going to propose to start a fundraising committee. The rationale is listed here. You've heard it all morning. We need to figure it out. Oh, thank you. See, I told you, I just can't multitask. There it is. The rationale is we need to be able to work together to get some alternative revenue sources. So I will leave this up here. You can kind of read through this, peruse it, but the idea is that it's going to be a committee that the committee chair is going to be appointed by the president. It'll be a 2-year term, and it will also include the treasurer and or a treasurer-elect. That is imperative if we're having a financial fundraising committee. We need to make sure that our financial leaders are involved in that. The idea of the committee is to develop, review, and implement fundraising and donor engagements, campaigns, and cultivation strategies with our mission values, core values, and our vision. I should have somebody else do this. I apologize. The idea is that we need to ask people at corporate levels, at events, at campaigns. This is not a fundraising committee to go, hey, GLR, we need you to give more money. That's not what this is. This is a committee to make sure that we are getting alternates. Oh, you are amazing. Thank you. That we have initiatives that are outside of the GLR to support the GLR. And click. Did it work? Yeah. And we're going to follow some annual goals. We're going to report back. We need to report to the executive committee at least quarterly. You know that that will be monthly because we're going to be talking about our initiatives. It'll be operational in nature, but it's not going to be something that we are obligating our membership or our region into situations without approval of the executive committee on any of those projects or ideas that we have. And also, we're going to comply with our conflict of interest and ethical financial policies that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. So that's the fundraising committee. The next bylaw that we are proposing in addition to is an ethical financial stewardship. Because if we're going to start incorporating all of this financial fundraising and oversight, we need to be good stewards of our finances. And so the idea with this ethical financial stewardship is that it's going to mean that we are not doing any kind of activity that results in personal benefit, influence, misrepresentation. We're going to be ethical in how we do our fundraising and financial activities. And the next bylaw proposal is that we are going to propose that we put into the bylaws a conflict of interest phrase. We already have a conflict of interest form. We have a policy that we sign, but we don't have that in the bylaws. It's very important that a conflict of interest lives in the bylaws. So we just took the language of our AMTA, GLR, conflict of interest form, and we reworded it so that it would fit into a bylaw and not a full policy. You can read that. I think we all know what a conflict of interest is. We're not going to do anything that conflicts with our personal gains in the GLR region. So we're just going to put that into the bylaws. And then the last one, I'd say the DEI and the fundraising committee are the two biggest bylaw proposal changes. A little history on the DEI. We had an amazing DEI committee. We worked with the strat plan that Todd and Melaine were putting together. And what we learned by living, right? We learn by doing. And one of the things that we learned was that we have such a passion for DEI that we put this DEI committee on almost every other small committee, and we gave 10,000 tasks for them to complete because it's so important to our region. However, it was volunteer, and it was too much. And so our DEI committee said, this is a lot. We've done as much as we can, and we need to rethink how we're doing this. And so with that call, we said, okay, let's figure out something that works because we recognize that DEI is one of the top things for our region. The system that we had was not sustainable. How do we make it sustainable? Okay, we're going to proposing to amend the DEI committee. So what we're considering is instead of having the DEI committee be a seated committee for X number, I think it was 2-year term, that we're going to suggest that we do a rolling project-based DEI committee, that it will look through the lens of DEI across the governance, across the programming of all the members of the executive committee of GLR. This was the language that we had this year, or the current year, before we put the language in for the consideration for next year. It was just saying that we had a 2-year commitment. We had our regional committee board representative and an elect and a minimum of 3 at-large members. This is the system that we thought was going to be awesome, and there were awesome pieces to it, but it wasn't the system that we need to consider. We're going to try something different. So the proposal is that it's going to be a rolling project-based committee. We're still recommending that we have that DEI regional committee representative as part of the appointed positions from the president, and it will be approved by the executive committee. And that person is going to be the person that's the liaison between this DEI rolling committee and the executive committee. And the idea is to, you see the third paragraph there, to make sure that we have included participants who reflect the cultural diversity of the region. The representative that is in that seated position is going to be the person that might appoint project leads, working groups, DEI liaisons, pulling different people in that also have passion for DEI, but maybe don't have the 2-year commitment and the time to do all of the things. So we're going to give it a try, if the membership votes yes, to look at this through a rolling project-based lens. Oops. The idea with that, I just wanted to, one more thing throughout with this DEI proposal, is that it allows more people to get involved in the GLR region, because you can go, I'm interested in doing this activity. It'll be a 2-month commitment. I can see what it's like. And then maybe I don't want to do a project for 3 or 4 months. Maybe then I can get back on. It's a way to get involved without a ton of pressure, a ton of investment in time, because we all know that we are running businesses and working and all the things, teaching. It's a lot to do sometimes. So this also offers the opportunity to get involved at a small place before you get really involved. We're kind of hoping that'll be the case. Come in and try something with the DEI committee and then stay for a long time. We'll see. I saw a couple smiles. We'll go with that over there. Okay, so those are the proposed bylaws. We've got the DEI, we've got the conflict of interest, the ethical financial stewardship, and the fundraising committee. So how this will work is after conference, be checking your email, because we will take a virtual vote to implement these proposed bylaws and get that set for our 2026 year. So I think that's all I have. So just check your emails, and thank you so much. Questions? No? Okay.
Do our conference co-chairs have some information they would like to share? They're coming. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. If you need a quick stretch break, feel free. While our hospitality chair, come on down. Sure. I didn't get a ticket this morning, so I guess I can't win anyway.
So our first thing is from AMTA, Music Therapy Techniques in Therapy, Counseling, and Special Education text. It's a yellow ticket. 3752230. All right, I'm going to set it right here for you. And then our next thing is a great place right here in town within walking distance on the mall. Principal Food and Drink. It's a $50 gift card. Right around the corner. It's a yellow ticket. 3752212. 3752212. All right, hold on to your tickets. They are going to stay in here for the keynote. If you were just a winner, get another ticket when we get ready to start the keynote as a little thank you for coming, and we'll have more prizes at the keynote.
So our meeting is going to recess until tomorrow, Saturday, March 14th at 9:30 a.m. So meet us back then. You can take a quick break before we get into our amazing keynote.